My dear loyal brothers, the reason I have accepted the biography of my Kastamonu life written by Kastamonu's Hüsrev and Süleyman Rüştü, Mehmet Feyzi and Emin, without altering the excessive, undeserved praise it contains is this. Recently a high-ranking official and a sergeant in Afyon insulted me, as though by destroying the public's good opinion of me, the people here would not embrace the Risale-i Nur as they have in Denizli and Sparta, and those lights would not shine out. I endured it, but I was saddened because the new students here were upset. While I was pondering over this, Mehmet Feyzi's sincere, learned, and respectful letter thrust those wretched officials' insults in their faces, reducing them to nothing, and completely dispelled my distress. The exact coincidence with those wretches volleying insults of those two nurses praise and respect, who are infinitely more elevated they are, makes me feel certain that it was wonder of Feyzi and Emin's loyalty. My brothers, it has now become clear that their intention in summoning me to the police station and government offices unnecessarily on false pretexts was only to insult and belittle me in front of people and make me look guilty. I can't stand it any longer. As far as is possible, they should not summon me. Go and see the criminal judge. Find me someone to act as my lawyer so that if necessary he can go to the police station in my place. It is torment and torture for a person who has lived in isolation for 25 years to see such offensive people. During 8 years in Kastamonu, I met only once with the governor on his insistence and went twice to the police station. Here, I have had to go more than 10 times. I can't go anymore. Get a note from the doctor, otherwise this town will suffer material and spiritual harm. The 4 severe earthquakes last night, which confirmed the matter of the 4 earthquakes in my defense written by Hüsrev, occurred at the same time as the police sergeant, who leans on a high official, balked at my insistence in the government building, and with humiliating abuse told him to go and get me, and compelled by the kaymakam, ordered the watchmen and gendarmes to bring me there even if ill, which was certainly a conspiracy against myself, the Risale-i Nur, and this country. This unprecedentedly severe earthquake coinciding with the assault on the Nur students' enthusiasm and the Risale-i Nur's being written here and causing me such distress shows that the Risale-i Nur is a means of repulsing disasters, and if its service is interrupted, the calamities seize the opportunity and occur. Mustafa Osman has performed many services for the Risale-i Nur in a short time, and his truly modest and self-abnegating letter proves his earnest loyalty and sincerity and shows he is on a par with the select students of 15 years standing. The staff of Moses collection he wrote is anyway clear proof of this. Even while writing this, the earth tremors have again begun. A conversation with the Emirdağ police. I have a question. What is the reason I have been treated in this extraordinary way because I sought my rights in the name of humanity? Firstly, I did not present the complaint I wrote and have held it for a year. But now I have sent it to someone so that it may be passed to the Ankara authorities by way of the police. I said that the Afyon police chief is fair-minded and I sent him a copy by hand. But while awaiting a favorable result and improvement of my situation, he evidently wrote to the people who pressurized me here saying, "This fine handwriting isn't his, investigate who wrote it." But to disregard a serious and absolutely right complaint and evince curiosity about an unimportant, harmless note and disturb myself is like disregarding 1,000 liras and placing paramount importance on 5 para. Is that not so? What law demands that people who write out the 130 treatises of the Risale-i Nur be investigated, despite the fact that 3 courts have scrutinized every part of them, and most of those who wrote them out were in court with me, and the treatises were found to contain not an atom's worth of anything reprehensible? What benefit is there is this? What need is there to summon an unfortunate like myself to the police station, particularly in response to a denunciation? But I say to you that if I so wished, thousands of people would copy out my writings, and they are writing them out everywhere so that the nation and country may benefit from them. Secondly, I request from you in the name of humanity that until the festival you do not turn my attention towards this world. I don't think of you, so don't you think of me. Don't force an unfortunate like myself who is weary of this world to be preoccupied during these blessed months with quite worthless worldly matters. I was curious about this new, meaningful earthquake. I said in my heart, if it was so severe in other places, the Nur students must have been subject to aggression again. I asked if it was only connected with my letter, and they said that it was hardly felt in Ankara, was more powerful in Afyon and Eskişehir, but was most severe in this town of Emirdağ. But it is astonishing that although there were 4 severe quakes, there was no damage. A reason for this is that a categorical order was given to bring Said forcibly to the government offices. The guards and a corporal came. I had shut my door and locked it. They announced that they would rather resign than break the door down. They turned and left. That is to say, like the earthquakes described in my defense speech, this particular one was connected with the Risale-i Nur and remained particular and caused no damage despite its severity. If they had broken down the door of the tiny Nur school here, it would have resulted in a serious blow and would not have been merely a warning. It's true this assault was minor and petty, but I can't hide that I have never been so annoyed as I was this time. Nevertheless, I put up with it in wondrous fashion for the sake of the Risale-i Nur and the Nurjus. For that wretch abused me as he sat in his chair of office, and he ordered my assistant, "Go and tell him." He arrogated government power to his own sluggard self and challenged it, and really needled a vein of character that remained in me from the old side. But the absolute necessity for calm, self-control, moderation, patience, and forbearance made me retain my composure. Thirdly, Marangoz Ahmet, who has wholly filled the place of the late wondrously loyal Marangoz Mustafa Çavuş of Barla, had the idea of a resting place of the intermediate realm and hereafter, a grave, for me on Mount Davraz near Sava, and wrote about this. He truly pleased me and made me weep sorrowfully. My dear loyal brothers, we again congratulate you on the blessed month of Ramadan. We also congratulate with all our life and spirit Süleyman Rüştü's blessed daughter, who is working on a typewriter at Zulfikar Mucizat, and is like the 8 of 2 heroic brothers, 7 children in the miracles of Muhammad. And congratulate too their undertaking with great self-sacrifice to duplicate the beautiful and careful writings of Hüsrev and Tahiri. May God bless them and grant them success thousands of times over for the superhuman, valuable and fruitful services they have up to now performed for the Risale-i Nur. What wonders God has built. Footnote: it is a subtle coincidence that no rain had fallen for a month, and our hearts were weeping at the slackness that had overcome the Nurjus due to the known assault. Then suddenly, just when Hüsrev's good news of the duplicating machine arrived 2 days ago, and Nazif's detailed letter came today, and the sample of the machine's writing reached me, and those who assist me said that the call to prayer had once again been recited in Arabic in Eskişehir, and that man who had given the compulsory order to the sergeant to insult me had received a blow just at this very time it began to rain. This divine mercy of rain exactly coinciding with the great joy, happiness, and expansiveness that our hearts were experiencing, which had long been weeping, augurs well for the future, God willing. I have received a letter from Mehmet Zekeriya, who lives in the vicinity of İnebolu, and is one of our brothers who has performed many services for the Risale-i Nur with his fine pen. It dispelled my anxieties and filled me with joy. He writes that he is now busy with teaching children the Qur'an and instructing them in matters of belief, which is one of the duties of the Risale-i Nur. You write and tell him that what he is doing now is as valuable for the Risale-i Nur as were his previous services. Also, the many treatises that you write out serve the spreading of the Risale-i Nur in your place. He should not worry, he preserves his former position. Recently, due to my indisposition, I have been reading the Evrad Baha'iyya from the book and not from memory. I never used to read its conclusion, which is the closing passage at the end, because I did not know it. I said to myself, let's read it this time, and I saw that on one page and in 6.5 long lines were the words Nur, Nur, Nur, light, light, light, 19 times. I felt certain that, like the Gawsul Azam, Shah Naqshband has disclosed and observed the Risale-i Nur and its sacred service, and that uploading and predicting it was alluding to it. So I added only those 6 lines and the line at the top and the end line to my Baha'iyya invocations of 30 years, in the hope that those angels should assist in the Risale-i Nur's publication. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, I earnestly share in the sufferings of those struck by the calamity of the Sparta fire, for just as I am a native of Sparta in numerous ways, so with its soil and rocks that blessed town holds great importance in my view, and is like the center of the Risale-i Nur's Al-Azhar University and Madrasatul Zahra. Tell those calamity-stricken people from me that according to Hadith, property belonging to believers that is lost in such calamities is counted as almsgiving. Especially in these times, such transitory property, which is 100-fold almsgiving, is transformed into much more numerous everlasting belongings. So, one has to offer thanks in one respect, in patience. God willing, in this world too, the most merciful of the merciful will bestow substitutes for those losses which go as atonement for sins. Convey my sympathies to them and tell them not to worry for no purpose. Secondly, one reason for occurrences of this kind, notwithstanding an ugly error, it is incumbent on Sparta, which more than anywhere is the Risale-i Nur's source and school, to protect it and to preserve the respect and value of the month of Ramadan. It is obliged to protect the marks of Islam against vice and dissipation. And for example, the following passage which elucidates, were it not for you, I would not have created the spheres, needs to be altered to, although this address is apparently directed to the Prophet upon whom be blessings and peace, it implicitly refers to life and animate beings. For since the universal Muhammadan upon whom be blessings and peace reality is both the life of life and the locus of the supreme manifestation of the greatest name and the light of all spirit beings and the original seat of the universe and the aim of its creation and its most perfect fruit, the address looks directly to him. Then, on his account, it looks to life, consciousness, and worship. Also, for example, some sentences which touch on philosophy, such terms as it formed a crust in the passage of time, then it turned into soil, then the plants appeared, and then the animals found existence, suggest natural philosophy in regard to divine creation and the giving of existence, which is not in keeping with the Risale-i Nur's explanations of divine art and bringing into being. My brother Abdul Majid, notwithstanding this tiny mistake, you have learned perfectly about the resurrection of the dead from the Risale-i Nur's matchless proofs, which is powerful evidence that as you were a distinguished student of the old Sayyid, so, God willing, you will be such a student of the Risale-i Nur and an exacting scholar of it. When I have the time, I shall either correct or alter some of the words, and calling it an explanatory addendum to the question of resurrection, will include it in the additional letters and send it to people like you who have absorbed the Risale-i Nur's lessons thoroughly. Together with your children and Fuad, you are every day together with me in spirit and in my prayers. I congratulate you with all my life and spirit for teaching children the Qur'an in connection with your official post. May God bestow abundant blessings on you. Convey my greetings to all friends and relations both around you and in our native region. Since Zulfikar Mu'jizat and the staff of Moses are being reproduced in the center by the duplicating machine, you should devote yourself to the corrections with all your strength and with your fine pen and accurate knowledge. Your brother, Said Nursi. Has Rafat had his operation? How is he? I am concerned. Many prayers have been offered for him. The heroic Tahiri has given the staff of Moses collection in trust to someone in Istanbul. It was written by Hatice, the daughter of the heroic Ahmed from Sava. It encourages the women to embrace the Risale-i Nur, so don't let it get lost. It can be sent to me if it is no longer needed, then it won't remain unused. I congratulate you on Ramadan, the night of power, and the festival. While I was in Kastamonu, the Select Nur students Asiye, Ulviye, and Lütfiyes, Zehras, Sherifes, Hajers, Nimets, and Aliyes were every day with me in my prayers and spiritual gains, and it is still just the same. I don't forget you. Recently, even I was wondering about Ulviye and Lütfiye, then 2 days later I received their letters and gifts. It was an indication of their loyalty. Although it has long been my custom not to accept presents, this evening, the night of power, I wore your robe and waistcloth and accepted them in the name of Asiye and all the nurse students in Kastamonu. But, so as not to break my rule, in return Lütfiye and Ulviye should take those parts of the Risale-i Nur that they want which Emin has. Or else Mehmet Feyzi and his companions can write out any on my account that they want. The innocent children of the sisters who have visited me on many occasions are within the fold of the Risale-i Nur's children, whom I often think of. I offer endless thanks and praise, for this letter of yours has dispelled all my crushing worries about Hüsrev and his friends and their duplicating machines, and Nazif and his assistants and his machine, and whether they would be able to continue with this new work. All praise be to God 1,000 times over. In fact, the day before I received your letters, I had gone for a drive round in a car. Suddenly, as though it wanted to convey some good news, a bird resembling Solomon's hoopoe followed us for around 15 minutes, flying to right and left, and then perching, then flying off and returning. I had never before seen such a strange thing, and I felt sure that the next day I would receive some good news. I said this to Nureddin, who was driving me. He too was amazed at the bird's strange antics. Then it suddenly disappears because I had divulged its secret. The next day I received both Nazif's comforting letter and the new products of his machine, and Abdurrahman Salahuddin's curiosity-arousing letter, and the news that Nevzat, the governor of Ankara who had harassed me because of the hat question, had committed suicide and punished himself with his own hand, and that there were no assaults on the work on Zulfikar, and it was continuing, and the news that the heroes of the Medredes-ü Zehra were persisting with Zulfikar without getting agitated and describing the reality of the situation, and the letters of congratulation of Tahiri and Abdullah, the heroes of Atabey, with which I am closely concerned, and heirs of Lütfi, and deputies and heirs of the late Hafiz Ali, and his capable companions in the service of the Risale-i Nur, and in the face of this latest assault, the meaningful, correct replies of the Aliköy Imam, Hafiz Ali, to the government's questions in a way that was most courageous and befitted a Nur student. I exclaimed, "See, the hoopoe's good news was right." Just as the staff of Moses saves from misguidance those submerged in nature and is a necessary antidote for everyone at this time, especially those fallen into doubt and denial, so too Zulfikar is essential for the believers and scholars, and particularly for the Hafizes of the Qur'an. All Hafizes have great need for this collection at the present time. It explains 40 aspects of the Qur'an's miraculousness, and every one of them should have a copy. At no time in history has there been a work like the Risale-i Nur that has received so little and so light criticism from those who attack the many schools and ways. Indeed, in return for their 100-fold sacred service and striving with 100-fold less trouble, its students have suffered a mere 1 or 2 terms of imprisonment and 2 or 3 calamities which were providential and victorious, unimportant, temporary, and in respect of their results, beneficial. I send everyone many greetings and pray for their success. I am forming the opinion that this wondrous machine being given to us so easily just when we were obliged to duplicate large numbers of Zulfikar and the staff of Moses, and the unprincipled printers too were holding back, is a sign of those 2 collections' acceptability and a wondrous bestowal of divine providence and a wonder of the Risale-i Nur. Yes, just at the time I was officially ill-treated and abused 8 times, and they were asking, who wrote this? About 1 commonplace letter of mine, the machine was producing out of 800 pages, 1,500 copies, and 1,000,000 pages. It is most certainly a Nurju and scribe of 1,000 pens who has come to our assistance from the world of the unseen. It does not matter, therefore, if some of the pages are indistinct. The parts that are clear will suffice us for now. The parts that are less legible should be made up separately. The wielders of the diamond pens can each correct 1 or 2 copies. Whenever the railway arrived in a country, the carters used to be dismayed and they supposed that their trade was finished. But because the activity increased with its arrival, the need for carriages and carts increased twofold. God willing, the writers out of the Risale-i Nur will not halt their activity, but will record greater numbers of good works in their books of good deeds with increased writing. In the face of all the politicians' torments, I have decided to say, for us God suffices, and He is the best disposer of affairs, and to abide in patience. In the past, I had some relations with Kazım Karabekir. I wonder if he still preserves the manly stance which was the cause of our relations. You may convey my greetings to him if he does so and would cause no harm to the Risale-i Nur and be of possible benefit, and if he is friendly. But since the politicians do not condescend to apply to the Risale-i Nur for everlasting life, I don't condescend to apply to them for this fleeting life, which is worth practically nothing in comparison. Neither do I forward any complaint or petition for my own well-being. I have received the 2 large and truly fine Nur gifts of Küçük Ali, who is fully the heir of the elder Ali and works on his system and is the veritable equivalent and successor of Abdurrahman and the heroic champion of the blessed people. However, the piece from the Hizb-i Nuriye was not written at the end of Zulfikar. Let him write it with that wondrous pen of his and send it to me. In my native region, when one of the madrasa students finished a book or began one, it was the custom to give them a sweet or some such thing called a miftihane and mahtumane. I observed this very same rule in the scribe Katib Osman. At just the time I had finished the corrections of the staff of Moses he had written, these grapes arrived as mahtumane, which was a sweet and subtle event and a pleasant reminder of madrasa life. Because compassion is a basic principle of the Risale-i Nur, and women are more advanced in that respect, they embrace the Risale-i Nur earnestly. When I say my brothers, I mean that women are included among them. They too are addressed in all my letters. My dear loyal brothers, don't worry at all. I am telling you about my illness now, which is severe and has resulted from an attempt on my life and is similar to what I wrote to you about before, solely in order to receive your prayers. But in no way must you be anxious. Endless thanks be to God, it does not prevent my supplications or correction duties. God willing, it will yield plentiful recompense and good. For myself, owing to this, I am in a way pleased, so don't you be distressed. Anyway, my duties are about to finish. Every copy of the Risale-i Nur, especially the collections, may perform Said's duties far better than you suppose due to your good will towards him, and they are performing them. And every one of the select Nur students may carry out Said's duties perfectly, and will do so fully in the future, God willing. One defective Said remains among you, but hundreds of collections, which are Saids in meaning, and thousands of physical Saids among you may perform those duties sincerely and perfectly, and they are performing them. In consequence, you should not attach importance to my person and the events that have befallen me. Just pray a lot for me, assist me with your prayers in my old age, weakness, and my excessive sensitivity, for in my view they are undoubtedly acceptable. The heroic Tahiri's innocent Nurja daughter departing this world for paradise truly saddened me. The loss of a Nur student and hard-working child such as Hijret grieved me on account of the Risale-i Nur. God willing, many will appear in her place and not leave it unoccupied. Indeed, the young Haydar from Uşak has appeared just recently, pleasing us with his saying that he will perform his departed sister's tests. May Almighty God bestow perfect patience on Hijret's parents and relatives, and make her an intercessor for them, and make that departed innocent happy in paradise together with my departed sister, Hanım. Amin. Congratulate Uşaklı Haydar for me, and tell him that I am praying for his success in serving the Risale-i Nur, and that he has been included among the Nur children. And I send many greetings to his teacher, Izzet. The Nur students have never interfered in politics and have never joined any party, for belief belongs to everyone. There are people in every group who need it and who profess it. The students do not take sides. They take up sides only against disbelief, atheism, and misguidance. Brotherhood between believers is a fundamental principle of the Risale-i Nur's way. My dear loyal brothers, I should have explained this matter to you long ago, but I forgot. It is this: most of the verses in the treatise, The Miraculousness of the Qur'an, the 25th verse, have been criticized by atheists or objected to by scientists, or have been the object of the doubts and skepticism of ascetics among jinn and man. The treatise, therefore, explains the true meanings and fine points of those verses in such a way that the very points that the atheists and scientists supposed very faulty are flashes of miraculousness and sources of the perfections of the Qur'an's eloquence. These are proved according to scholarly rules, and decisive answers are given, but so as not to cause confusion, their doubts are not mentioned. Their doubts are mentioned only in explanations of such verses as, "And the mountains its peaks," and the sun runs its course to a place appointed, and 3 or 4 verses in the first station of the 20th verse. Moreover, for sure the miraculousness of the Qur'an is very short and condensed and was written at speed, but its matters are elucidated in so learned, profound, and powerful a fashion in respect of the sciences of rhetoric and Arabic that it left the scholars in amazement. Not all attentive readers will fully understand and benefit from all the discussions, but everyone may pick a significant share from its garden. Although it was written hastily and in disturbed conditions, and the manner of expression is faulty in places, it explains and clarifies matters of the greatest importance in the light of those sciences.